Regardless of what character you pick, the game will start with your character sitting on a train as it approaches Preheville. The game is set in a historical period that mirrors Europe in the 20th century, right at the end of the Second Great War. A war that was started by the Kaiser of Bremen and ended as soon as the Kaiser's forces were able to take Preheville. Here, we get Marina's backstory. She was born into the Church of Almer, into a family that practiced the dark arts for many generations. A life of a dark priest is a cruel one, even if modern times overlook the most archaic and ancient rites. A dark priest's life begins and ends in dedication to the old gods. There is no place for self in the church. Your mother had different plans for you. She didn't want you to go down the path that would befall every firstborn son in the church. So when she finally let your father know of your birth, she told him a daughter was born to the household. You were dressed accordingly. Your distant and often absent father didn't get a wind of the original nature of things, or he just denied what was in front of his face. In either case, the subject was never brought up. As you grew a little bit older, you didn't question this either. Everything felt natural this way, so who cares? You grew up at the churchyard in the city of Preheville. You started your religious studies at a fairly young age. You were given an option to choose which studies you would pursue, something completely unheard of if you had been a firstborn son of a dark priest. Studying the occult gives us the engrave skill, which will be useful to get our agility up later on. You proved out to have great talent as an occultist, and slowly even the Holy City of the Vatican and their Ministry of Darkness heard about your feats. You were offered a scholarship at Vatican City to further educate yourself. You took the position without hesitation. Just the idea of getting away from your condescending and stuck-up father was enough to make the decision, not to mention the obvious benefits the Vatican would have to offer. Your hometown wasn't exactly a bustling metropolis. Your mother was very proud of you, she always was. Your father, on the other hand, seemed jealous of you. Your father had always been antagonistic towards you and your pursuits. You were not sure if it had to do with your origin or if there was something else left unsaid. At the Ministry of Darkness, Vatican City, in the initiation ceremony, all the new students would have to choose an older god that they'd let inside of them. Who do you choose? I choose Grogoroth. Everything was going well with your studies until one day you got a letter from home. It was written by your father. This was very strange. You didn't have any contact with him since your departure. The letter told that your mother had passed away. The words were very cold and without sympathy. You tried calling your home, but the telephone exchange couldn't connect to any phone in the Preheville area. You had a suspicion that your father had something to do with this. He had always been too obsessed with the blood magic, and you learned that there were too many rites that demanded the blood of your loved ones to work. There was no other way. You had to prepare for a trip back home to Preheville. I choose get something to read in order to collect a skin Bible. The Venushka Skin Bible will be very useful towards the endgame since it helps unlock some areas where you can collect an armor set that can protect your limbs from dismemberment, which will be useful going up against rare. How long has it been? It feels like it's been a lifetime since you left town. And we are not going to be skipping the intro. Marina falls asleep and has visions of a girl with blue moths. The girl runs away and Marina follows her. You feel like somebody was watching you while you slept. See other people in the train car, Tanaka and Marco, but they don't wake up. Some pieces of luggage in the train are searchable and have random loot drops that may or may not be very useful. Marina walks into the next train car. Searching the luggage, we find a bear trap. Bear traps are useful for disabling enemies before fighting them. And here we get lucky getting a shotgun This will be useful to get early access to the city, since instead of getting a bolt cutter or both the keys, you can just shoot the lock at the gate preventing you from entering the city. Marina follows the blue moth and enters the passageway, being teleported to the workshop. Here, she'll encounter the very off-putting janitor. He's angry, saying that he's been looking for you everywhere. He asks you if you understand the hurry that they're in. His eyes bulge out of his socket and says that no one expects you to, and then commands you get back to work. Without any explanation or context, and sitting across the way from the little girl from earlier, Rayla, the janitor commands Marina to start constructing replicas of the Cube of the Depths from Fear and Hunger 1. The janitor threatens to rip out Rayla's eyes if she keeps googling him and storms off. The Cube of the Depths was a mystical item in Fear and Hunger 1 that unlocked the ancient door to the lost city of Mahabre deep underground underneath the dungeon. The ancient city where humans would go to become gods, and where Almer had himself gone to ascend to a higher plane. And it's also where the second half of Fear and Hunger 1 mostly takes place. After assembling a few cubes, the other girl, Rayla, gets up, waves at you, and then runs away. Marina follows her, but she's quickly caught by the janitor. And the first combat encounter begins. Fear and Hunger uses a traditional turn-based RPG combat system. This encounter with a janitor is basically a tutorial that you're not meant to beat, although you can, in which case you would get the Kasara, which is the janitor's weapon, which is pretty decent for starting the game. Right now, with the starting weapon, Marina is applying less than 200 damage points per attack, which, as you can see on screen, was not enough to take the janitor down. And next, we have a disturbing scene where the janitor dismembers Marina, introducing the player to the dismemberment mechanics of the game. Also showcasing the style of body horror that we can expect. With her legs cut off, Marina can only crawl around the workshop now. We don't get too much information about the origin of the workshop, but we get a big hint at the end of the game suggesting that someone has been meddling with magic and technology. Also, we'll be seeing the style of the workshop again, the improvised wooden style, along with the inexplicable machines, when we enter the otherworld regions during the course of the game. Marina has a vision. She finds herself in a huge hall populated by giant versions of the different new gods across the eras. We can see Shambhala among many others here. All these are the new gods that have failed in their attempts to take down the old gods. Marina has another vision where she finds herself on top of a tall tower with an odd man dressed like a jester waiting for her at the edge. His name is Perkele, and he would give Marina the first hints of what's going on, explaining that she is a participant in the festival of Termina. Seems to know a lot more than he's letting on, and somehow he knows about the workshop and the other visions Marina just had. He says that he pulled you out of the rabbit hole you were crawling down into, and the moon god Rare has healed you and made you whole again. And now you are under the beautiful green hue of the moon, standing on top of the moon tower. Perkele explains that he is speaking on behalf of the moon god. Along with Grogoroth, Sylvian, Rare is one of the ancient old gods, and Rare has many agents on Earth. You are the dreamer, he is the dream. 14 unwitting participants have been invited and called to participate in the festival of Termina. But, Perkele explains, there will only be one victor in 3 days' time. Says that she doesn't want any part in this, but the jester says that it's not about what she wants anymore. His master is not giving them the option. The jester says that he doesn't want to confuse you anymore, giving you more information, and that all you need to know is to get to the tower at the center of town. He will answer more questions there. Let's meet again under the moonlight. Disoriented, shocked, and surprised, Marina wakes up and she's back in the train. Everything for a moment looks normal, though the train has stopped, and she doesn't see any of the other passengers. Was the janitor, the workshop, the jester, and the moon tower all just a bad dream?